For great ideas and practical tools you can start using tomorrow to grow your business and separate you from the competition, you've come to the right place. If you're into B2B marketing and sales, then welcome to the one and only B2B Marketing and Sales Podcast. With over 60 and counting total years in the trenches of businesses small and large, they have a plethora of knowledge and experience that generate you more leads, capture more clients, ring up more sales. Well, doggone it, just make you more money. How about that? Always thought-provoking, yet dubiously entertaining. Please welcome to their respective microphones across 3 time zones, your co-ringmasters, the Dave Loomis, and not the rock star, Steve Miller.
Hey everybody, it's Steve Miller, better known as Kelly's dad, marketing gunslinger. I usually just start laughing when I say that because I just think it's so funny that I have my conversation with my guest ahead of time, or with my compadre David Mayo Loomis, ahead of time, and we're always laughing before we start. And then I'm supposed to just stop and be very serious, and so it's very hard for me to do. But anyway, here we are, and yes, this is one of the episodes where either Dave is not with me today. I'm interviewing a really, really smart person. I'm not saying that she's smarter than Dave. Why am I getting? I'm getting a spam call. I'm not saying she's smarter than Dave, but she's definitely smarter than me. So that's all that really matters. I would like to introduce you to somebody that I've actually known for many years. Okay. Ruth King, Ruth, do you have any idea how long ago we met?
It was because I ran across Uncopyable right after it was published. So it was right after that. And I bought a copy for all of my clients. And that's how we met.
That's right. Yeah. 2017 was when the book originally came out. Mm-hmm. It was my second best-selling book. My first one was back in 1990, if you can believe that. And actually, it was my next book. So, yes, I do remember that, and we were just so blown away by anybody who wanted to buy my book. It's sort of I don't know how people who are watching this right now, being an author is a very odd situation, I think. And Ruth, you have multiple books. I'm gonna do the proper intro here in a second, but you have multiple books. Oh, you want an improper intro? Sure, all right, I'll do that first then. All right. Okay. So Ruth and I first met. It's been at least 6 years, and she bought a bunch of my books for her clients because Ruth is the financial. Oh my gosh, she is the financial guru for the B2B world. Really, is what I would say. And she's amazing with money because she, back one of the benefits of I came from the corporate world, right? So when I went into speaking and consulting, and a high percentage of people who go into speaking and consulting don't have that background. Okay, so they always talk about how much money they're making, right? But what they're talking about is how much money they're grossing.
Yeah, not how much.
Yeah. Oh man, I grossed $300,000 last year. And I'm going, wait, there's another question behind that. How much of it did you keep?
Yep, exactly.
And that was something.
I'll tell you exactly why I read the book, and it was the first time that somebody had really taken marketing and made it to make sense so that you make yourself different. And so what I don't know whether you know the whole story. So I bought the book for all of my clients, and then I made them read it. And then I made them go and talk to people who were their customers, people who were their prospects, and find out what they were doing different than everybody else. And we had this really cool conversation at my annual meeting. So you were the instigator of that.
I love hearing that. Thank you. That is so cool to hear. There's nothing better than hearing that my book impacted people and helped people to get better, run their businesses better, make more money, all that sort of stuff. But making more money is actually where you come in, in large part, right? So I'm going to properly introduce you to everybody. Just know that hey, if she's my guest, she's pretty darn smart. So you better be listening. All right. Okay. Profit and wealth guru Ruth King. I don't even call myself a guru, but profit and wealth guru Ruth King has a passion for helping businesses get and stay profitable, utilizing the latest systems, processes, and technology. And this is where this is one of my weak points. So I love having conversations like this. Okay, Ruth this is really cool. Okay, I'm going to read this first, and then I'm going to ask you a question. Okay. Ruth is especially proud of a business partnership where she started consulting with a company that had, at that time, $750,000 in annual revenues. With her guidance, 16 years later, the company reached $10 million in sales and was sold for $9 million in cash. Do you have a case study on that?
No, but I should.
Yes, you should. Okay, just want to make sure that you know what's next, all right? What you need to do. Yeah. All right. She, and this is where she absolutely flies right by me. Okay. Ruth has an MBA in finance from Georgia State University. See, that's not the Bulldogs. That's the
No, that's Georgia State. It's the Georgia Bulldogs, and then there's Georgia Tech, which is the Yellow Jackets, and then there's
Yellow Jackets. State. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So, and she has a bachelor's and master's degree in chemical engineering from Tufts University and University of Pennsylvania, respectively. I majored in electives. So, so you see, that shows you where we are. She, she has a whole bunch of books. She has a whole bunch of books. 101 Dumb Financial Mistakes Business Owners Make, How to Avoid Them, will be released later this year, right?
September 5th.
This book is preceded by the number one book. Was that so bestseller, Profit and Wealth? Yep. Profit or Wealth? Ugly Truth About Cash, Courage to Be Profitable. You've been on a bunch of must-read lists. I saw one list where you were number 2 behind Gary Vee, and since Gary Vee and I do not personally get along. Oh, boy, that's another story.
Sure, you and I will have to talk about that one offline sometime.
Yes, we will, because he don't like me. But also, you have a new product coming out very soon. I want you to just briefly introduce it, because we'll then come back to it later on. What's coming out very soon?
It's called Financially Fit Business. Financiallyfit.business is the website, and you'll be able to enter your financial statements, click a button, and get your results in the good, the bad, and the ugly in less than 5 minutes. So there's no excuses about not looking at your financials anymore. You can do it in 5 minutes a month.
So this is going to be on a website.
Yeah, it's software.
So it's okay. So it's an online app that people are going to be able to use to know how they're standing financially. So let's talk about how people are standing, how businesses are standing financially, and what your perspectives about it. Okay, you do focus on the B2B world.
Yes.
Okay, tell me about the clients that you work with.
All of them are business owners, or they're generally somewhere between, the smallest ones are 700 to $1 million, in that range. I mean, I'll do work with smaller ones, but it's generally online or something along those lines, not personally. Up to about 30 or 40 billion are the biggest. I like the sweet spot for me is somewhere between 1 and 5 million. Okay,
that's a lot like us in large part. I don't do face to face with anybody who's less than maybe 20 million or something like that. Mm-hmm. But actually, right now, Kay might not even let you see me face to face. So she cut me off from speaking live a couple of years ago. So because I like working with the smaller companies.
Yeah.
Because I have if you look at my client list, I got the big guns on there. Okay. I mean, I got the Coca-Colas, right? In Georgia Tech background, I guess isn't Georgia Tech in Atlanta, or is that Georgia State?
No, Georgia Tech is, Georgia State is, Georgia, University of Georgia is in Athens, which is about, from where I am, about 45 minutes northeast.
Okay, yeah. So I've spent a lot of time there at the Coca-Cola headquarters.
It's down the street from Georgia Tech.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, right. That's why I remembered that. And other big, and other really big players. But you know what? I can only nudge the sales of sugar water just so much, right? But I can nudge the sales of a small business a lot. Mm-hmm. Now, what is it that I should say, my smoking hot wife Kay and I, we come in and we work primarily from the sales and marketing, branding perspective. When you work with somebody, why does somebody hire you to work with them?
Because they're not as profitable as they want to be. They're maybe having cash flow problems and issues with respect to paying their bills sometimes, not as much, but most of them really want to grow and actually achieve something with their businesses. And it's not making enough profit in order for them to be able to do that. So for example, if, the guys who I started with at 750,000, we took them because they had an idea. They didn't want to be in business forever. And they wanted to be out. So we grew it to a point where somebody would pay attention to them and they could walk away with $9 million in cash. I mean, that's a pretty good deal in 16 years.
Yeah. And that'll buy a nice boat down in Florida or wherever they want to be.
Actually, no, they're not buying boats, but Bob he splits his time between Vermont and Sarasota, Florida, and he's having a blast. He's thinking about starting his rock band again, which I think would be really cool.
That would be awesome. That would be
really awesome.
Yeah, I would call the band $9 million is what I would call it. So let me see, because when people like that, don't they typically look for somebody? And I don't know if I'm right about this or not. Don't they typically look for somebody like me or Kay? Because they're thinking to themselves, we have to increase sales, right? We have to increase the number of customers that we're working with. So we need like lead generation, we need brand, we need this type of stuff, okay, to grow the business. But when they bring you in, it's more from the financial and the systems part. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, it's very system oriented. I start at the bottom line, you start at the top line.
Yeah.
So I start with what I call their net profit per unit. Now, what does that really mean? Like, for example, in a restaurant, the net profit per unit, how the restaurant generates revenue is by meals. The more meals they serve, the more revenue they generate, and hopefully the more profit they generate. Like my gym that I go to, their unit of revenue is a member. The more members they have, the more revenue they get. And we know what the profit is per member. We need to know what the profit is per meal. And, like if you're in the HVAC or home services business or business services business, your unit of revenue is a billable hour. For every billable hour, how much drops to the bottom line? So I take it, most people say, well, how do you make money? And they say, well, we sell this, 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 and this. But they really and truly don't think about how they generate revenue. It's one step below the this, this, and this. If you ask most people that question, they'll go, oh, we do this. But they don't look at it for every one of these things that we sell, what actually comes to the bottom line. And a lot of times when you go down that path, I mean, I've worked with $4 or $5 million companies where their net profit per hour was like $1.87. Why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Why are you too short? And then the light bulbs go on. So yes, they use you to increase the revenue. They'd use me to increase the revenue profitably, so that they know that if they have X number of widgets, they're going to make Y dollars of profit over those X dollars of widgets. And so we look at it and we take the P&L and go backwards. We start with the net profit they want to earn per unit of however they generate revenue. We add the overhead per unit of revenue, and then we go upwards. So when they get to you, they go, Steve and Kay, we want to increase these units. Help us do that. And you can do it from an uncopyable standpoint.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And in fact, really, when I go in and I'm working with people, initially, I start with, okay, how much money are you making? And when I say making, it's not gross. It is what starts to get below the line, right? And because if nothing's going below the line,
they don't need you.
They don't need me at all because this is not one of those situations where, oh, we'll make it up in volume, right? How many times have we heard that comment? And because I'll say to people, I'll say, well, look at how much is a customer worth long term?
I don't know.
How much of that customer's worth over a long period of time does go to the bottom line? All right. How much are you willing to spend to find a customer? Okay, because sometimes you have companies who have they'll have somebody who spends $1 million over say 5 years with them, but then they want to go find those people and they only want to spend like $50 to find them. And I go, hey, if I said to you, I will bring you one of those customers, but it's going to cost you $10,000. How many customers would you ask me to give you?
Yeah.
How much would you spend?
Yeah.
Right. But only if that $1 million has money, left over. Right.
Yeah.
Right?
That's important.
So there are a lot of questions because when I say to them, I say, hey, literally, how many, if I guarantee you 20% return on your money, how much money are you going to give me?
Yeah.
And they go, well, I don't know. I have to think about that. I go, no, the answer is all of it.
Yeah.
The answer is all of it. But because if you're making net off of that, then who cares how much money you spend in marketing? If every time you spend $1 in marketing, you get back $1.20, that works. But at that point, then you see, I'm no longer part of that picture because now if they don't have the systems, and that you're talking about, then they're not going to end up being able to sell their business. So when you do start to connect with somebody, all right, what is the very first step?
The very first step is figuring out what their unit of revenue production is.
Okay.
And I'll tell you a really funny story. So I started working with a new client in the services business. They were HVAC, heating and air conditioning contractor. And so we're driving back to his office and I said, what net profit per hour do you want? And he looks at me like deer in the headlights. I'm like, I don't know, what should I have? And I never answer that question because it's not my business. It's their business. I said, I'm not answering that question. It's your business. You got to tell me because that's how you build your pricing. That's how you build your marketing. That's how you build everything from there. And he goes, I don't know, $20 an hour too much? I said, that's where you want to start? That's where we're going to start. So we built the pricing. We built everything on it. And I get this email about a month later and goes, $100 an hour too piggish? And I just started laughing. I said, what's going on? He goes, I had this job and Murphy went to sleep and it came in under in labor and came in under in materials. And when I job costed this job, it came in at $100 net profit per hour. I said, that's great. And he goes, yeah, it really was great because I was able to give a piece of it to my favorite charity and it made me feel really, really, really good. And I said, you finally get it. And he goes, what? I said, the more you earn, the more you can give away. And he has lived by that philosophy since. Every one of his employees at the end of every year gets a percentage of the net profit per hour or the net profit based on net profit per hour. And so do his charities. His employees are fanatical about knowing what the bottom line is because they know that they're getting a piece of it every single year. The percentage goes up, their percentage goes up. So if the percentage of net profit per hour goes up, their percentage of that net profit per hour goes up at the same time. And it's been really interesting because there's been good years.
Mm-hmm.
But in all of the years, they get it and they work towards making the bad years better, which is the cool part about it, more so than anything else. And it's been fun to watch it over the years. And the thing that happened that we didn't think would happen is that he doesn't have to fire bad apples anymore. Guess who fires them?
Each other.
People.
People fire them.
Yeah, because they're affecting their pocketbook.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Saying you don't belong here, right?
Yeah, goodbye. And they make their life miserable and they leave on their own.
That's very cool. Now you mentioned pricing because you say okay, you start with what, like, let's start with we'll say okay, you want to make $100 per hour off of this,
per unit or per box,
or per unit or whatever, whether it's a product or service or something like that. All right, and that's where you start.
That's right.
All right, and then you work backwards from there to develop pricing.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep. And part of pricing is marketing expense.
Part of pricing is marketing expense. When you are in that kind of a conversation with somebody about the pricing and how you get to there, where does do you even think about, we can compete on pricing?
No, because I don't want them to be the cheapest game in town. The thing that I loved about Uncopyable is we're here. We have the best value. We look at it for our moose, and then we don't worry about all the other crap. Excuse me for saying it that way, but that's the way I look at it. Is that we?
Oh, okay. Look. You can't use language like that on here. You said crap. You say shit.
Okay. That's fine.
I've never said that word in the podcast ever, but I think it's funny you apologize for using the word crap. So, all right, yeah. So go on with that. What you're saying about price.
All right, because I know if we price this way and they want $100 per unit, whatever the unit is, we're going to have to add the overhead cost to it. Then we're going to have to add the direct cost to it, and their pricing is going to come out higher than most other people's pricing. And so we have to find the people who appreciate value, who appreciate the fact that they're going to take care of them right the first time, or whatever it is that makes them uncopyable. All right. You can help them identify their moose. And if they haven't listened to your podcast before, they better listen to a previous one to know what a moose is.
You know what a moose is.
Yeah. And so, we have to find that moose, and the moose have to find meese. Is that right?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So that's where it comes in and say, okay, you can't compete on the bottom line here. You have to educate. You have to explain to the customer the value of what you provide and what's in it for them. And your moose will pay attention. Who cares about everybody else? That's why I talk about, when you ask me what I want to talk about, I want to talk about uncopyable financials, because we start at the bottom line. We go up. And we find they're going to be higher priced than their competition a lot of times. Go find the moose. And that's where you come in. Okay. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We go, we want to find moose who understand where value is clear, the decision is easy. Mm-hmm. Right. Which is one of my sayings. And that and my friend Dan Kennedy has another great line, and he said, if you can't be the lowest price, in the market, there is no competitive advantage for being the second lowest price.
Yeah, I get it.
He's a complete advocate of be the high price, but deliver a value where people say, "Oh, I got to have it." I got to have it. Yeah, of course it makes complete sense to have to do that. So what you're looking for is a way to start from that beginning point. All right.
Net profit per unit line.
Net profit per unit line. And then happily meet, the marketing strategy, the competitive strategy, the differentiation and stuff like, and those things, so that you are attracting the right moose, You're working with the right people. I mean, like I mean, obviously, you were working with this company that you sold for $9 million in cash. You worked with them for 16 years, right?
Yeah.
That's that. We in the business call that a long-term relationship.
My longest client, who I started with in 1987, sold his business in December of 21, and I helped him sell it. It was time to go.
You know what? That and we have clients like that. That we have a client that has been with us for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
I also have a client, and this one you're gonna get a kick out of. I also have my current largest client has been a client of ours now for I think 7 years. But he knew me 25 years ago. And he watched me work with a trade association that he was part of, that he was actually chairman of the board for a few years. He watched me work with them, and he didn't hire me for 18 years. And I still just every time we're together, I go, why did it take you 18 years?
What was his answer?
He said, I don't know. He says, I was making money, but then one day I woke up and I thought, maybe Steve can help me make more money. Well, and we did.
Good.
But he's one of those guys that he understands the bottom line. He understands that whole below the line stuff, and he's just a pleasure to work with. As I'm sure a good percentage of the people that you worked with, are a pleasure to work with too. So, all right. So we're talking to people right now, and most of the people we're talking to are the moose that we're talking about. That's who that's who my listeners are, my BFFs. So, you said that we would have several different types of what do you call it? Steps for a profitable business. All right. So number one, I think clearly we've driven home that where you start is with that unit cost.
Mm-hmm. No, unit profit.
I'm sorry, profit. Unit profit that you want to have. Yeah. Okay. Is there a next step, or is there something else that we need to do? Where do we go from here?
All right, that's step one. Step two is what piece of overhead is associated with that unit. So, for example, we have all these fun types of things that we have to pay for, whether we sell one dime or, one drop or one service or one product. We have to pay the rent. We have to pay the light bill. We have to pay, for somebody to do our books, maybe somebody to answer the phones, maybe for your marketing costs, all these things that we have to have in order to stay in business. That's the overhead piece of it. And so we need to know if overhead, let's say, is $100,000 for the year, how much of that $100,000 gets assigned to each unit of profit. So we start at the bottom with profits per unit. The next step is overhead per unit. That gives us the gross profit per unit. All I'm doing is taking the P&L going backwards. And then we add the direct cost for creating it, which is step 4, which is either labor, materials, freight, commissions, whatever. And then that gives you your sale per unit, your unit revenue that you want to make per unit. And so that's the P&L piece of it. The other thing that you have to make sure of is that the people who are producing your units are productive. There's no sense in paying somebody for 40 hours a week and they're only producing units for 20. You're losing your butt. You really and truly are. So that's the other step. That's step 5, basically. And so you have to make sure that everybody who's working on your units, per se, is productive at what they do. If you're paying them for 40 hours, they better be producing for 40 hours.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, and that type of thing. So, and the fun part about it is really and truly, once people see what the productivity issue is, it always gets better. You post it and they go, oh, that's not good, or that's great. And we just keep going and going and going like that, So the thing that we have to do is, as we've talked and alluded to is, if your revenue per unit is higher than your competition, who cares? Go find your moose. Make sure that the people are productively producing whatever that is, so that if you're paying them for 40 hours or, whatever, they're producing for 40 hours or very close to it.
Mm-hmm.
They do get vacation, they do get holidays, they do get sick days, meeting time or whatever else it is. So it's never going to be 100%.
No, but and you mentioned that if it's higher, if that unit profit costs or that unit profit is or the cost, all right, is higher than the competition, who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
Okay, right. Why do you say that? I mean, I know you've already kind of alluded to it, but to kind of go a little deeper into why. Because some people are going to say, "Oh no, we have to make sure that we're keeping our costs as low as possible so that we're competing." So we are competing.
Well, you're keeping your costs as low as possible so that you can make the most net profit per hour or whatever net profit per unit you've got. However, I mean, if you decide that you want X number of dollars per unit on the bottom line and you work them backwards and you're, 1.5 times your closest competitors, find a reason that you can justify the 1.5 times and find the moose who will listen to you, who will understand the value, and who will pay it. I'll give you another really cool example. One of my former clients, who is now nicely retired, his net profit per hour, and he was a contractor too. I'm talking contractor stories today. I'm sorry, I don't know why. But anyway, his net profit per unit was $1,000 per hour, which is unheard of in most areas of the country.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Well, yeah, he retired with a lot of money. But think about it this way. He knew exactly who his moose were.
Right.
They were high net worth individuals who cared about one thing. Well, actually two things, but one thing was they made one phone call. Everything was done perfectly, and there was never a problem. And they had the money. They were willing to pay for that convenience. And a lot of them were celebrities, and they were in a situation where they wanted to be treated like humans.
Mm-hmm.
Taking pictures of cell phones and selfies and all that sort of fun stuff. So they did that, and guess what? He was able to do it. Everything was done by referral because once word got around, it was the perfect situation. It's the perfect example of the moose. That's who his moose was.
Yeah, and in cases like that, success begets success.
Yeah,
that's that law of increasing returns. That the first time I ever heard that was back in the day when Microsoft first came out. And then they started to own everything. And then I heard about that law of increasing returns. I go, I like that law.
Yeah, that's a cool law.
I like that law because that's like self-referencing. It's a self-referencing situation. And anytime we can get to that is awesome. All right. Is there anything? What's next? What's the next step?
That was it. I gave you the 5.
Oh, you gave me the 5. Oh,
yeah.
We didn't number them. You didn't number them for me.
I'm sorry. All right. Number 1, net profit.
Number 1.
Number 2, overhead costs per unit. Number 3, direct cost per unit, which gives you number 4, your revenue per unit. And number 5 is make sure they're productive.
Boom.
How's that?
Drop the mic. Drop the mic. My gosh. Yeah, no, that is fantastic. Now, all right. So next step, since we're kind of pushing the time here. So the next step is if somebody has a question for you, now tell me how they can reach you, and then I will make sure it goes into the into the video and into show notes and transcript. I mean, everything like that. So how do they reach you?
If you go to ruthking.info, there's a contact form on there. You can email is rking@onthe-ribbon.com, which is another long story. That's why I've never stopped using that email address.
onthe-ribbon.com. Okay.
Yep.
Is there a website?
Not anymore. It was the aggregator of all of our websites that we were doing. It was the ribbon that tied all the websites together.
I see. Okay. So
that's why it was on the ribbon
behind that.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why it was there.
And of course you have a plethora of books.
They're all on Amazon. Just Google me on Amazon.
All right. Now, tell us more about this new online app.
It's financially fit.business. And
it's .business, not .biz. It's .business.
That's right. .business.
Financially fit.business. Again, I'll have that in the show notes and everywhere else too.
I got tired of doing financials by hand for the past 40 years. So it was time to actually create the software package to be able to do it. So version 1 is you enter your data from your financial statements, and it will give you all the trends of where your business is going, the good, the bad, the ugly. And you'll be able in 5 minutes to figure out what's going on with your business. And everybody asked me, well, can't QuickBooks do this? And yeah, they probably can do a piece of it, but not the graphs per se, because of the trailing data. And I also find that if you did it in QuickBooks, you don't look at your financial statements because you would miss negatives where they weren't if they were just looking at aggregates. You have to look at your financials. You can spend 5 minutes a month. No excuses. And so that's what's there. Version 2, which will be hopefully out next year. Let's get some, revenues and some subscribers and things with version 1. We're going to be looking at being able to scan in your financials and the data be popping out of it. That would be kind of cool. Next year.
Wow. Sounds like somebody's setting themselves up for what Kay and I call non-airplane income.
Yes, that is non-airplane income. This is the first thing that's not dependent upon me other than my books, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah, one of our early goals when we were working on all this stuff was that our non-airplane income would equal our cost of living. And that was one of the first real, smart financial goals that we set. So when we reached that, it was like, holy cow, this is cool.
Yeah, this is fun. Yeah.
I don't have to go on an airplane. My bills are paid, and all that sort of stuff. And then the speaking turned into fun money. And then COVID hit, and Kay, her, my smoking hot and very, very smart wife, which is why the two of you get along so well, I think, she finally said, you know what? You hate travel. And I said, yes, I do. She said, you are now done with live speaking. And that was about 6 months after COVID. Because she said, you've been in such a good mood since you have not been on an airplane.
This was selfish.
I know. And so I've had a great time since I haven't been, and I've only been on a few planes since then. So, but I keep getting all these, I have 6 million miles. 6 million miles. And I mean, that is a sick person, if you ask me, who flies 6 million miles. But I know that you're on the road a lot. And I know that and I just know that Kay just thinks the world of you, and and I just say I'm afraid to talk to her because she's so smart and she's talking about money, and I just make money, so there's nothing wrong with that. So
nothing's wrong with that.
Yeah. So what last piece of advice do we have to share with the people that are watching or listening to us?
What I would say to everybody is do not be afraid of being quote unquote higher priced than everybody else in the industry. Go find the moose. Once you know what you want on the bottom line, who will support that bottom line for you. And that's where you and Kay come in.
That's right. And because our philosophy is, every industry has a high price leader. Mm-hmm. Every single industry. Why not me?
Yeah, agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. So Ruth King, the profit and wealth guru. I won't tell people what your other one was, since you said that's supposed to be erased from the internet.
It will be soon.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Ruth. I really appreciate it. This has been awesome. I think you're going to be a lot of people kind of sitting there going, "Oh boy, I better call Ruth."
Well, thanks for having me, Steve. I appreciate it. And I look forward to our further conversations and next time I'm in Seattle.
That's right. Yeah. Next time you're over there on the island, on the peninsula or something like that, we'll get together. So thank you again. This is Steve Miller, not the rock star. Kelly's dad, marketing gunslinger, husband of the smoking hot wife, Kay, who currently is on a mission in Guatemala, helping people who are far less, what's the word I'm looking for? Not as, they don't have the benefits that we have. And she's helping people right now. And that's awesome. So, and I'm not, and I don't have my partner, David Mayo Loomis, who is the author of this book. Marketing is everything we do. I always show his book on as often as I can because I want people to buy that. And we'll be back again next time with either me and David or me and somebody else, or David and somebody else, or some other combination. Who knows what's going to be? And as Dave always says, we always finish with bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the one and only B2B Marketing and Sales Podcast, the source for B2B marketing and sales insight. If you enjoyed the podcast, please be sure to subscribe and leave these old guys a 5-star rating. Check the show notes for any links and contact information. You can always contact us by going to b2bmarketingsalespodcast.com. Thank you, and keep on marketing. Keep on selling.